Okay, so this week on the Construction Business Blueprint YouTube, we're doing things a wee bit different. We're doing a podcast style here with one of my clients, Dan. So, welcome to the Construction Business Blueprint YouTube, the only channel for construction business owners to get more time, more profit, more control of their business and life. So, like I say, today I'm joined here by Dan from DE Landscapes. Dan joined us back in March 2025, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Give a bit of context before we get into the actual session that we're going to do here. When we first met, Dan was sort of stuck, bit frustrated with the business, fair to say. I'll let Dan go into that in a bit more detail, but sort of reached the ceiling on the type of projects or size of projects he was doing. Doing projects maybe didn't necessarily enjoy anymore, didn't give him a lot of fulfillment. Dan's obviously very good at what he does. That was never an issue. Getting the work was never an issue. It was more just where to take the business to the next level, and obviously how the business was impacting you personally in terms of how busy you were. It was just hectic and everything else. So since being on the program, in a very, very short space of time, you achieved a hell of a lot of stuff. And since then, the dynamic of what we're doing together has changed. But in that initial period, you know, the size of stuff you're delivering, your businesses grew by almost over 500% in terms of the revenue that your business is bringing in, which is absolutely unreal. You're now on the cusp of doubling the team, bringing in a second team, things like that. So definitely working a hell of a lot, few hours. Damn near off the tools if you want to. I know you you love your craft and you love jumping in every now and again. But operating the business with, again, more control. So all those pillars that we usually touch on, the time, the profit and control. But what I want to talk about today isn't just a numbers conversation, and so talk about what you're doing now and what your turnover and all that carry on. We want to not just talk about figures for the sake of figures, but we want to go deeper into everything like we always do in the program. We don't do anything service level, no motivational stuff. I want to unpack the shift of what actually happened from when you came on board, what you felt like, and go through the whole process of the journey that we've sort of been on together. I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy about the journey, but that's exactly what it's been. So we're going to talk about what's changed in business, what's changed for you personally, how it's impacted your life, which is obviously everything we do is based around the founder and having that founder's first approach, and what it really feels like in the business and life now compared to what it did back then. So that's the context of today's conversation. That's everything we're going to go over. So it's going to be a great session. I'm looking forward to it. So Dan, let's just go right back to the very, very beginning, before the change. So when we first spoke, I remember the conversation very, very well, first time we met. But how did the business actually feel to you at the time before we actually had that conversation when you came to me? What was the straw that broke the camel's back that made you actually reach out for help? Or what was going on?
When I first came to Marc, and this is the reason why I came to Marc, was the business just felt like it was a 24/7 job. If you added up all the hours I'd worked throughout the entire week, I would have been better off on the job.
Yeah.
Like I was working on the tools every single day. I was pricing after hours or on the weekends, and then on my weekends, my head was just filled with stress of all the things I had to close off for the week. It wasn't getting done because the time just wasn't there, and it was just constant 24/7 work. No family time, no time to do anything that I wanted to do. My life was just constantly focused on the business.
Yeah, and it's a common theme inside the industry. Like, so, and I know you obviously you're a family man, but you also have your hobbies outside of things, training and motorbikes and stuff like that. And I take it all that just was shell for a long time when all this was going on. So, what were you frustrated by in specifics about the business? Like, what about the business just constantly felt like it was pulling you in, or what was the main things that was obviously now your business is very different, but what then frustrated you the most about the business? Was it just the time, or was there anything else specifically that was going on?
It was mainly the time, but when I came in the Marc, I realised there were so many more issues that I wasn't actually aware of until I came on the programme. I didn't realise I had the potential to be going after these much bigger projects. Well, not that I didn't realise I had the potential to be going after, I didn't know how to get to that point of being able to actively seek those jobs and start getting the opportunity to price them and winning them. So that was something that I didn't realise was an issue. There was no structure to my weeks. It was just firefighting. It was viewing stuff when I could. It was viewing stuff after work. There was no structure, no set days, and it was me doing absolutely everything from on the tools to admin to booking site visits. Everything was done by me, and it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't possible to grow the way. Wouldn't be possible to grow the way it's growing now with me doing all those things.
Yeah, absolutely unreal. And so let's talk about the moment you reached out. So obviously I do remember the conversation very clearly when we first met. How did you feel going into that conversation when you came in to meet me? Like, what was going on in your head at the time? What maybe did you hope I was going to do for you and change for you? Because you mentioned there were issues and problems that we discovered or that we dove into that you didn't even know were there. So when you came to me first and foremost, did you know really what I was going to do for you? Did you know how I was going to do it? Did you know much at all, or what was kind of the hope of coming on board? Or
No, I didn't know. I didn't know much at all, to be honest with you. I sat down with you and we had a conversation, and obviously when I came on to you were relatively new at the time.
Yep.
There was nothing like this for people to look at. No real results to look at for other people. So I had a good conversation with you. You told me, you talked through your experience and what you've done in other businesses, how you started on the tools and worked your way up through the companies that way. And I did just have to put my trust in you. I spoke to my dad initially, and like everybody knows, like there is mentorship programs about, and a lot of them are.
A lot of gurus.
A lot of them are grifters. Like they just suck you in. And that's what I wanted to make sure wasn't happening here. And I spoke to my dad. I sort of outlined your experience and stuff like that, and he said, "Look, he seems like he knows his stuff, like, and well, he does, like, you do, yeah." And
what was that? Was it what for your dad? And obviously, especially for the older generation, because I know even when I was telling people this is what I was going to do, they were like, "Here we go," you know what I mean? But like, it was the reason for me stepping in. This was something that obviously the experience speaks through, and I wanted to help people genuinely.
Yeah.
So like, obviously. What did you show the social media to your dad, or what was it? Because obviously I never spoke to him, but what was the...
Well, you've had videos up before talking about what you've done in other companies and stuff like that, and I just sort of chatted to him about that, and he was like, "Yeah, he seems like he's clear about it." But I had reached out to other mentorship programs as well, and I didn't get that, like, I felt a bit of trust between me and you, like when I initially came in, like you had a personal chat with me, and whereas all the other guys, I feel like everything was you're just gonna be handed like a cookie colored program with no real getting involved with your personally where your business is at specifically and how to improve that. It just they all just seemed to be a program that they all just fired out to everybody, the same sort of thing. Yeah, but this felt different.
And what about construction? Was there many other construction related guys you spoke to? Or?
There was one other construction specific guy that I spoke to, but just the way he went about everything, it didn't really fill me with confidence and trust. Okay.
And then putting other people aside, but like in terms of even just saying, because obviously you'd never done anything like this before, mentorship or anything like that, or invest in the business that way. So what, talk me through. You don't hesitate. You're not a guy who hesitates. You're an all-in kind of guy, but you're very calculated. Everything you do in business, like everything we've talked about, you've implemented. But I know, and once you believe in something, you're obviously a good reader of people, and it take a lot of trust. But what was your fears? If you just talk about what were you concerned about? Because yes, you didn't know me from Adam. We only met, we had an initial conversation, but that was it. Maybe an hour, and you were going to trust your business in me and your life and invest money, and do you know what I mean? So, what were the thoughts going through your head of hesitation? What were you worried about happening if you're not coming to fruition, or what was going through your head that way? Did you have any doubts?
Yeah, I did. I'm sure anybody would have doubts about investing that kind of money in it, but I knew that something needed to change. I knew that I couldn't carry on going like this, and I knew that I didn't have the experience to know what to do, how to get there. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how I was going to be able to get there. I knew I needed help from somebody who'd done it before. Yeah. So I did just have to put my trust in. Yeah,
100%, and that's exactly what you did. And I touched on it there about the trust and decision making. Like in business, that is crucial, and that is a testament to how far your business came along here. Like, the fact that you do make decisions and you move on and you act on things. So when you did sort of come on board with all those concerns and obviously the investment that has to be put in place, do you think now looking back, well, obviously, but, how quickly after, with that doubt and with that, fear, how long did that hang around after you take action and actually came on board?
It was quick. Like, it was really quick that it left, because what I came with you initially, the issues that I was facing initially, we solved them like that. Like nearly straight away they were solved, and then we moved on to the other things that I didn't think existed, and from then it's just been a constant progression through each issue. And like I didn't come onto your program I didn't have any massive big goals about growth. That wasn't why I was there.
It wasn't for scale. It was more
wasn't
personal.
The initial plan. It was more personal, and then from getting the personal issues sorted out, like it's just been growth since, and that's how we're going to keep moving forward.
Right. It has been insane, and like I'm not surprised. We're laughing because like 500% is not a figure like you hear about 10x in your business and everything else, but like 500% is insane. But that all comes down to you doing the work. So again, you know, we'll talk about the program. I'm going through everything. I don't even like to call it a program because it's much more than that, because you mentioned about the cookie cutter stuff. That's what I see programs as. It's obviously a mentorship. It's very bespoke, one-to-one. So talk about when you joined, like what was that process like? From obviously you hadn't got a clue what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. So if you even remember, what was that first sort of step like, that onboarding process, when we had that first meeting? Like what kind of things did we go through, and what was so what was different from what you expected? But even like in that early day of then like creating that plan, we obviously went through things in a lot of detail in the onboarding process, and again we probably went deeper. You're probably thinking like very surface level stuff, but we then dove into even deeper things where you touched on it already, you didn't even realize were issues. Do you know what I mean? So things were obviously different from what you expected. And you mentioned how quick that happened. What about the first real turning point? So let's talk about like the biggest sort of pivotal moment in how things turned around. So obviously you talked about the stress, you talked about how being busy. Was there anything that sort of stood out, any sort of action or thing that we changed that stands out for you the most? Or what do you think that the biggest difference was, or turnaround, and the success of growth? And also, there's two different things there. There's the growth side of things, but then there's also the personal side of things. So you only jump into the tools if it's absolutely necessary or because you enjoy it. So that was obviously very different from if you weren't on the tools, the business didn't make money and everything else. So what do you think were, from getting those bigger jobs, like what do you think the turning points were? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so from you, what do you think it was? Again, if you can remember that far back. But
the biggest turning point would have been that us transitioning from being on the tools 24/7 to operating it more like a business. So things needed to change within the company, like the way stuff was priced.
So talk about that, right? So what's different now? Well, we're not afraid to give away any secrets here because there's nothing strange or wonderful. But what did you have to do then to actually price yourself out of a job? Like what did we sort of process did we go through there?
We worked out sort of what was being outputted each month, and then we were able to work out myself and our overheads into like the one overhead calculation. So we were able to price that into the jobs, which means whether somebody's there or not, the job's still working.
Actually, whether you're there or not physically working on the tools,
which is so important, because you can't run your business if you're on the tools 24/7. It's not you can't. You're not going to get the progression that you want to get. Like not a chance would I be able to have that opportunity to be getting that second team out. Not a chance would I be able to be getting in subcontractors for digging out jobs and stuff like that. It just wouldn't be able to happen, because it's hard to run your business efficiently when you're on the tools 24/7 without massively eating into your personal life. But evenings and weekends.
But that's it. It even give you the mind space, not mindset, but the space to actually think, because it wasn't me that came up with those particular ideas. Like, I'm not a landscaper. You're the expert there, and you were coming to me when I provided that space for you to be able to actually think by the things and process and systems and all the things we put in place, even the approach and the beliefs, like even the beliefs of what you thought was possible. Like when you sort of achieved those, your ideas started flooding in. You started coming up with all the ideas of the dig out teams and how we could actually make the business more efficient. So, giving you that headspace was fantastic. What about the project? So we'll talk about the growth. So that was like the sort of coming off the tools. Was there a lot of things that you had to, well, actually stay on that point. Was there a lot of things that you had to get rid of in terms of what you believed in, or, what you thought was possible? Or, because obviously you did implement everything quite quickly. You're a guy that takes everything on board. And that's not the same for every client. When you come to me, you ask me a question, I give you an answer, you run with it. Do you know what I mean? But obviously that doesn't come easy. So was there many things where you thought, like, is this the right way I should be doing this? Like, that's not the way I should do things. Like, talk about the control. Like, you still struggled there with not being on site.
Yeah, it's something I have struggled with for a while. Like, was getting my head around that I don't need to be there 24/7. A lot of it was coming down to what I thought what everyone was thinking about me, like the guys and stuff, what they were thinking of me, thinking if he's not on site, he's, I don't know, going to the spa or something, or like just not doing work. But you're working 24/7. Not to. You're working. You're working.
But the work's different.
But the work's different now, and it's really important to be able to to get to do that work if you want to grow your business.
100%. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like the mindset of, or the belief system of, if you're not there physically working, you're not actually earning. But, you know, that is one thing that a big challenge for most tradesmen to overcome, is the fact that now that you have taken a step back, you're planning differently, you're pricing jobs better, like everything around the terms of the business that actually brings in the revenue has changed.
Yeah.
But you never had that time, that the space to think, because like, talk about a job, pricing a job now compared to pricing a job then. You mentioned sitting at night.
Yeah.
I'm sure those prices were getting through together, like, compared to
yeah.
And like now you're coming to me like, tell me the difference in that. Like, we even had a chat this morning. You're sort of fussing over the small figures and stuff, like, and
like before, prices they were just totally thrown together. Site visits were thrown together too as well. Like, I remember back at the start, like, I was out looking at jobs, and you're looking at a scribbled down notepad, because you've got that many to look at in such a short period of time before it gets dark.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the time you have to do the job. Your price being thrown together, your notes have been thrown together, and you're coming up to the job and you're thinking, I can't even think what this job is.
Yeah, I remember.
Because everything was so rushed and thrown together.
Yeah. And what about the client feedback from that? Like, what's the difference between, obviously your type of client and the quality of client has changed because of everything we do here, but what's been the feedback? Have they, like, I know it's not always the same client, but have they noticed the difference?
Yeah.
Like, what's...
Yeah, no, feedback I've been getting on the way we're presenting ourselves now is saying it's much more professional. Like, before, when I was on site, do you know what I mean? Your phone's ringing and you're busy doing something. You're not going to answer it, or you are going to answer it, and you're going to say, I'll get back to you, and you forget to get back to them. There's that many that it's not possible to remember to get back to everyone when you're busy all day on the tools. But now we have Amy, who's our booking, my partner as well, and our bookings team department. So she handles all clients coming through initially. She organises the diary for me, books in the site visit, so I'm in specific areas on each day and pricing during the week, and everything's just so much more organised. And from that initial point of contact to booking in the job, the process is so much more professional. They're getting sent reports to show exactly how the job's going to be done. The quotations are much more professional looking now than before. It was just, I would say, a lot of guys still do. It's just a WhatsApp message or a text with a price on it, and it's just not the way we do things anymore. Yeah,
and like, talk about that. So Amy came from outside of, like, had her own business doing other things as well, and came into the business, but had no experience in it.
Yeah.
But obviously, everything that we worked on together, like the kind of things we put in place in the business to allow Amy to take up that role, and how well she's doing it now. She's grabbed it with both hands. She's really driving it on. Like, so talk about that. Like, what sort of things we put in place there in terms of, like, if the phone rang, what did Amy do?
Yeah.
Like,
so I was initially really worried about this, actually, because I was just worried that I don't know, that she would say the wrong things, or.
But that's a control issue again.
Yeah, I know.
You're handing it over to somebody else. It's natural.
But we had it worked out to a T. Like, we gave her like a script, things to say, what the questions that needed to be asked, forms to fill in when she's on the phone, and now she's picked it up brilliantly. Like, but we provide her the great information to be able to pick it up so quickly, and like the forms the details she's picking up off customers. When I'm going to jobs, I have everything written down in front of me that I need to know about the job, and I'm going there with information rather than going in blind. I've got pictures, I've got information, I've got budget, what they're thinking about getting done, and stuff like that. And it just makes things so much more simple.
Yeah, and again, all those things, again, that information, I'm gonna say, like, give you the credit on that, because I provide the guidance of, like, right, Dan, and ask you the right questions, but I'm right in saying that all that information that you knew you needed to do, you had it in your head already. You just didn't know how to articulate it, or like, or how to put it down in a system or a process. Like, you weren't even familiar with what a system or process was. But it is as simple as that. It's like, what is everything I go through? Let's get it written down on paper. And in fairness to Amy, like, we give her the basics, and now she's running with it. Like, she's natural at it. So, like, a lot of the growth and everything, obviously it's a testament to everybody on board. So it's fantastic. So what about in terms of the types of projects then? So obviously when you initially came, obviously stress, personal thing was a lot of it, and you were sort of burnout point. But what about in terms of the actual type of projects, going from those sort of, like, we'll not talk too many figures here, but they were nothing night and day compared to what you were now. What was the change? Was it anything massive? Was it anything drastic, or what was it?
it wasn't like a massive drastic change. It was actually really subtle what we did. It was just made more of an emphasis on including it in our marketing of what we actually wanted to get. And since the day that we done that, it has just changed like that.
Yeah.
Because before it was just, I was taking on basically everything that it came at me like. It wasn't...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't projects that I really, really enjoyed. Whereas these big, massive projects that we're getting now, the full out the front, full out the back, the projects that I really, really enjoy them.
Yeah,
they're great for the business. They're enjoyable to do.
100%. And the materials and stuff you're working with.
Yeah, materials are much better spec now that we're doing those bigger projects. We're getting to use those really nice materials like porcelain and granite all the time.
That's it, because like obviously I'm a tradesman myself, and I love like a plumber by trade, pipe fitter, but like I used to love doing a boiler, you know, and doing it all in copper, and then standing back and going like steady, you know, that wee paper. But like it's like that. If you're doing a shit job, it's like demotivating. You're like using shit products and cheap stuff, and you're looking back on it going, yeah, it's a good job, but like you're just ticking boxes.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, it was just, you knew you could do it, you were capable of doing it, but all you were showcasing at the time. Again, we're not a marketing agency, but we do everything in here about marketing, the vision in terms of the business, and we give you the whole vision of where you wanted to go with marketing. We give you scripts for the marketing, we changed your wording, we changed what was said on the social media, but it was just as simple as, it wasn't the kind of projects you were getting because you were showcasing everything you were doing, so you were just getting more of the same thing. But then when we mentioned full garden transformations is what we do, we're specialists in this. Like I still have the messages, and it was like, what the hell? It was like a switch.
Yeah,
you know. And in fairness, you've got a guy doing the socials there, does a great job. But again, it was just that wording that changed things, and then it just took off from there. But obviously, the marketing is one side of thing, bringing that an influx of and volume of work on those types of projects. But what if you had that sort of influx of leads and different things and inquiries for those types of jobs before you came on board, do you think your business could have coped or managed with that workload or that type of project?
No. It probably wouldn't have even won the jobs with how long it took me to get back to the people, or the way I priced it, the way I presented myself. The way I presented myself, it definitely wouldn't have filled them with much trust on could this guy complete the project. Yeah. Whereas now everything's totally different. Like. Yeah,
because we're talking about a lot of money on those jobs. Like it's big investments people are making in their homes. Like, so on the marketing side of things, so it's fair to say that yes, you know, the market and everything else will get you to a point, but the business needs to be set up in terms of like there's far more than that. Like what's working, what's not working, and that all comes down to the tracking, analysing everything. And again, like the business has to be built, the structure and foundation, and that's what we fixed first. We sort of realised that where you wanted to go, but we needed to, like you said, in the early stages, we fixed all the things that needed to be fixed first.
Yep.
And then we went for that because it's easy to go for growth, but then again, your stress levels went back up. Everything you complained to me at the start with the personal issues would have just inflated again and been back to square one. So it's important that we fixed the structure and the foundation first and then moved on to the growth side of things.
Yep.
Okay, so we talked about the systems and processes, different things. I know we use those words quite a lot, but we also talked about beliefs and everything else. So what do you feel personally about you changed first? About the business maybe, or about the way you think, or what your beliefs are now? Like what do you think was like do you think the Dan that was started this DE Landscapes in the beginning in March 25 to Dan Ennis now, do you think they're the same person? Like what do you think's changed or evolved in you?
It's totally different, and it's around that switch from the being on the tools tradesman into the businessman. It's everything that I do now, and every decision made is thought about properly. It's calculated through actual data pulled off from jobs. I'm just thinking much more better now. Yeah.
And even talk about like habits, because obviously habits is a big one. Shaking habits, shaking the way of operating. You know, that's not an easy process, like we said. So what was maybe the most difficult thing to overcome, or habits needed to be shaked, or, you know, anything like that in terms of what was being challenging for you? Because even now, in terms of the growth side of things, that's not easy. You know, there's a lot of still things to overcome. Like even throughout our whole, you know, time together as mentorship, client relationship, like it isn't always plain sailing. It's difficult. So talk about those challenges as well. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbow. So what things were difficult, if you can think of anything, you know?
Yeah.
But
a difficult pill for me to swallow was probably the way I was pricing stuff.
Yeah.
But it became clear on how well we were tracking the jobs that the way I was doing it before, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
it just wasn't working. I'd spent time on working out how to do it the way I used to before, so it was a bit of a pill to swallow to reinvest my time into changing the whole way I did it, but it needed to be done.
Yeah, because what was the fear about changing your pricing?
Losing work.
Yeah. And what would you say, like, because obviously I hear that all the time, speak to a lot of people all the time, and that's a big one. It's like, people won't pay that, all those beliefs that you have, and, what would you say, like, did you have those beliefs when we were doing that? Obviously there was a hesitation there.
Yeah.
Talk me through how that felt personally, like, was there a fear? Did that happen? Did you lose work? Maybe you lost a few things, but what talk about that process of
the work that I would have lost wouldn't have been work. It would have been worth doing anyway.
Correct,
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
If I got the work at the previous price, you would have been kicking yourself when you're doing it, because you wouldn't have been making the money that you needed to make off it. So I'm glad that we made that change. Yes, some jobs probably have been lost from it, but it's not really a loss if you're not having to learn a lesson from it as well.
And the margins are shit anyway. So what's the point? Do you know what I mean? You're doing it for nothing. So what's the difference? Because you touched on it there about being busy, right? What does busy look like now versus busy back then? Like, because obviously you're still a business owner.
Yeah.
You're still busy. Like, you're still flat out. So what's the difference now? How is the busy different?
Busy back then at the start would have been on the tools Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 every day. Pricing on the evenings, not getting round as many jobs as I can now. Within work hours, not getting back to people back then. In time that I'm able to now, because I was trying to do everything on evenings and weekends, and I was just being put off. Busy now is everything's much more structured. I know when I'm looking at stuff. There's appointments for it. I know when I'm getting back to people, so people's expectations are handled better.
Perfect,
they're not constantly sitting chasing me for quotes.
Yeah.
And you're already doing their head in before you've even...
Yeah, you're already letting them down.
You've already letting them down, yeah. Now, nobody's let down. Everyone's clear exactly when they're getting stuff, when I'm coming out to view them, and just there's so much less chaos in my life. I get my weekends free. Like,
yeah. And talk me through so if you don't mind sharing, like, go through your Monday to Friday now of, like, because you're really structured. You're a guy. You have massive discipline in business and outside of business. Obviously, with stuff you do on the outside, with hobbies and stuff like that, and other things you've been through, like your discipline's insane. So talk me through your routine now. Like, what's a standard week look like for you now, on a standard day?
Yeah. So the standard week would look like Mondays, always on site Mondays, and enjoy it. It gets everyone set up for the week. We can talk through what's happening, what's the plan for the week. Tuesdays is a site visit day. I'll be out looking at work all day. Wednesday is the same. Thursday we'll have our team meeting on Thursdays, and I'm there on site all day. It lets us sort of talk over any issues that are continually coming up and get them nipped on the bud straight away, so they don't happen again. And then Friday's when I price the work that I've looked at during the week. So everything's much more structured now. I'm able to keep myself accountable on getting stuff done because I'm off on the Friday. I get it done on that week. It's out of my head for the weekend, and the week's closed off properly.
Brilliant. And what about the team? So you mentioned your team there. Obviously you have a small team. That growth happened with the current team you have because we just streamlined everything, made things more efficient. But talk about the team. What was there? Sort of got Amy on board. Like, everything was new for her. The way, like, she has a totally different person now. Like, the business is different. Everything about it's changed. So talk about how the team took everything that we were doing and implementing on board. How were they impacted by that? Were they bought in initially? What was the crack there?
They actually were. I think the biggest holdback was probably me on my thoughts of what everyone would think about the way stuff was being changed. It was me that was probably holding stuff back because everyone's took to it really well. Like, the days that I'm not on site, I get a detailed walkthrough of the job at the end of each day.
Yep.
So that I'm kept in the loop about everything. I know if maybe I do need to nip over to drop something off, so nothing's held up, and that's fine. They love our Thursday meetings too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'd be on to me if I hadn't done it yet. Yeah. So they'd be on to me about what about the Thursday meeting. So they love that too, and it's just everyone's runs much more smoothly now.
And what would you say is the biggest difference there? So about the meetings, what I know, I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. So what do you think that is that makes the difference between the connection between you and the team? What is the one thing that's improved it?
Communication.
100%.
Being able to communicate things between each other.
Yeah.
Rather than letting stuff build up and build up and build up. What's happened before, like when stuff builds up, it never works out. But see if something can get nipped on the bud straight away, it can be talked about, it gets sorted there and then, and everyone's a lot happier.
Yep, you've done your homework. And talk about the Tuesday calls as well. Obviously, that's a big part of your week.
Yeah.
You're a guy, again, you're a guy of routine. You never miss a call. There's times I've had to change the call, you haven't been happy about it. But like, that's infer, like, you're a guy of routine. But talk me through the Tuesday call. So obviously you have your plan in the program. That's totally bespoke, tailored between me and you. That changes all the time. You come to an idea, we change it and everything else. Talk about the Tuesday call and touch on maybe the community, but what were the calls first? So how do you benefit from that, or what do we sort of go through?
The Tuesday calls is usually stuff that gets brought up that I might not have been aware of. That was an issue. That's usually when that comes up, because it's not something I specifically came to Marc to try and get guidance or to try and get help with. It's something that he's bringing to us that maybe somebody else has had an issue with, and you're helping them through it. And then you realise, okay, I actually need help with that too. So they're brilliant. Like, they're brilliant at helping me realise stuff that I didn't realise were issues and need worked on.
Yeah.
So they're really important. A lot of the time, it can be something that maybe I've brought up recently as well, and then that gets highlighted.
And during the call, you go, he's talking about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're not done by accident. Yeah, there's a lot of work goes into them. Yeah. So so you enjoy the Tuesday calls. What about, you touched on hearing what other people are going through. So obviously there's on top of, again, of what the one-to-one stuff is, there's a community there of guys. So when we do meetups, we're going to be doing more meetups this year, more regular stuff, obviously, as the community grows. But talk about the guys in the program. Obviously, you even do work with some of the guys. You've built good relationships there off that. So talk about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, the community's great. Yeah, it's all just business owners in the same position that I was in at different stages throughout their business, and it's great to see. Like, everyone can talk about their problems in there too, and you get other ideas of other people. And then I've actually done work for I've got work off one of Marc's clients in there too, and we're starting to build a relationship with another client about doing projects together in the future. Yeah,
100%. And in terms of that, like, that guy, people, as a hesitation for people in the community where it's like other tradesmen, they see it as competition, but in fact there's other people in the program who have the same landscape and business, garden, and it couldn't be more from the opposite of competition. They're actually working off each other and helping each other out that way. So that's what that community was sort of all about, because there's a lot of again, it's all about beliefs, standards, attitudes, behaviours, and especially in this country, it's, people are very guarded. People are, and like, I'm sure, like, you've had those challenges yourself about sharing things and everything else, but obviously the community is very different. Have you ever felt like there's anything you couldn't share, or you had to sort of hold back from anybody or anything? No, that's classic. And because that's one thing I always get that sort of feedback of, is like a concern of competition or anything like that. But like, we do things so differently in here, and there's obviously so much more. Like, there's enough to go around everybody. So I mean, everybody can win and playing off each other. Like, so almost that sort of cliche saying of you're stronger together, and it is true. Like, you are. Okay, so talk about personally again. We'll just sort of start to wrap it up then. What impact? We talked about the team. We talked about you, the business owner. Talk about. And again, you've already touched on it. What impact has it had on family life? What impact has it had on, outside of the business and everything else? What's the biggest difference? Has anybody else noticed a difference in you personally, or what's?
Oh, well, I'm about a bit more. Yeah,
you know what you look like. Yeah. Instead of seeing your van driving down the road.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I know for me, for me,
a lot more relaxed too as well, because I'm not every week. I'm not thinking about all the stuff that I haven't got done. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? All the people I need to get back to. Everyone's so clear in front of me, because the systems, processes are in place. I've got Amy on the bookings team. I know what needs done when, rather than just flicking through a notepad going, I haven't priced that one yet, and then it's in my head all weekend. Yeah.
I know, because like, that's what I'm saying. I've been there, so it's like you're busy and then you're home, but when you're home, you're not really home. Your head's in a different planet. Do you know what I mean? And being able to have that off switch. Why do you think now? Well, you already touched on it there. Why do you think now that you're able to actually turn that switch off? Like, what do you think is testament to that? Why do you think
it's all the systems and processes that we've put in place to keep everything in line and keep everything within those work hours and stuff. It's funny, I remember when I was talking to you the first time about coming on, you were talking systems and processes. I couldn't tell you what systems and process was like, because there was none. They were non-existent.
Yeah, I know, and it's a common that we do. I do have a bit of the onboarding process. It's even changed since you've been on board. It's constantly evolving, but But whenever I ask people questions, what about this? You have no, 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 and like, but it's the norm.
Yeah.
That's not like a criticism. That's why people are coming to me, and that's why, especially in this country, like it's like where we are, even in Northern Ireland, UK wide, like there's very few of this going on. It's just everyone's sort of stuck in their ways. So looking over this, we'll sort of finish off in a few bits. Looking over the last year, again, tough question for some people to ask. You'll be used to getting asked this question now on our reviews and stuff, but what are you most proud of yourself personally? So there's no point in me saying how great you are. Like, what are you most proud of the outcome of what you've done so far? Because we're only still in the middle of the journey.
It's hard to put a figure on exactly one thing. Like, it's just how much we've actually changed. That's what I'm most proud of, is how much we've actually changed. As a business, it's a business now. It wasn't a business before. It was a job for me. It was a full-time, really stressful and frustrating job before, and it's not anymore. Like,
but even like now, you're going through a rebrand. Like you've changed everything about the business, but like
everything's transformed so much that we're changing the look on the business. You've
even grew out of your logos. Like it's everything has changed. Yeah. That's insane.
But
if one, what would you say? Obviously, there's a cost associated with the investment and everything coming on board. So you were with me for 6 months initially. You've signed up again for another year. I have no doubt that that'll just continue on. And the reason for that is because, like, what are you... I'll just sort of... I don't know where you want to change that around or not, like, but what would you say... Obviously, we went through the whole process. What more is there to do? What would you see the biggest benefit is now in having that support there? So, like, week to week, day to day, what do you see the biggest benefit from it as it stands now? Obviously, we've talked about the whole process of you've completely outgrew what the person you became and the business increasing. But what about now, just as sort of like a more of an ongoing process? What's the biggest benefit you see from us working together now?
Is a continued support, because in business you're never done dealing with problems. They do come up, no matter how good everything is. There is going to be issues that come up, and it's great to have that person to bounce ideas off and ask for assistance on how to go about certain things.
Yeah.
Because there are things that have come up that I've maybe never experienced before. Like as I said, it was just like a lot of people like me are just guys who were on the tools and then they've accidentally made a business. Yeah. And it's knowing what to do in those situations and be able to get the advice on them is why I continue staying on.
100%.
And what to do in unfamiliar territory, like when I've got these team of subcontractors coming out, like what process to have for them. Yeah. Something I've never had to do
even
before.
Putting the contracts in place and things like that. It's just, everything's there. What about even the smaller stuff? Like, I know, again, like you mentioned, this is construction. A phone call, somebody not turning up, changes everything. Like, talk about problems before you had that support network there and being on board to the problems now. Do they, like, maybe even the same problem then, like even something that we touched on yesterday, or a problem, what it would be then, the same problem now, is does it have the same impact on the business?
No.
Yeah. And what's different about it? Maybe, like, because obviously you come up to me with a problem, but have a conversation, 9 times out of 10, you came to me like in a panic, and then is the problem ever like as sort of bad as whatever it seems to be?
It's not, yeah. And a lot of what we do look at as well is how to look at problems and realise that they're partially your fault, or maybe 100%. Entirely your fault.
Ownership,
taking ownership of the problems. And because if a problem keeps happening, it's more than likely probably you that's the issue here. There's a way to get around it so it doesn't keep happening.
Yeah, and a lot of that times it is just that sort of digging deep enough, and I'll say to you, and sometimes it starts like you'll come to me with an issue and it's like, this is the problem, I'm like, damn, what happened here? Yeah, and then it gradually just gets quieter and quieter. It was my fault. And like that's just business. So look, we'll wrap it up. So just do a bit of like reflection on this. So I think it's obvious, but do you feel you made the right decision on coming on board?
Yeah, 100%. So signed up to another year.
Yeah, that's it. Proofs in the pudding. What would you say to? Well, let's ask a different question, because they're kind of obvious questions. Yeah. Who is this program for? And then another question: who is not suited to this program? Because not everybody comes on board. Not everybody should be on the program. So, what kind of person is this right for?
Somebody who feels like they're stuck in the same stuff day to day. They're not progressing their business anywhere. They're unhappy with the amount of time that they have. They just want to get it to a healthier position. It's more more enjoyable and more suits our lifestyle better.
Brilliant, 100%. And who's it not right for? Because obviously, we talked about, like, we have those tough conversations all the time. The reason for your success is because you implement everything so well. Who is this not a fit for?
Somebody who's not willing to put the work in. Because there is at the start, when you're bringing on all these systems and things you need to implement in your business, it does get almost more work at the start to implement it, but then it pays off instantly when it's implemented and when it's worked out. But you 100%. Do have to put the work in to develop each thing for your business.
And even like to have that open mind, like one thing that you take on, like there's many people I would give the same advice to, and you know they're hesitant, but you know having that open mind is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody then, sitting where you are a year ago, listening to this right now, if who's maybe sitting on the fence or unsure of, like maybe even coming on board, or maybe they haven't spoke to me yet, or you know they've been engaging for a long time and they're struggling with those things you say. What would be your advice to that person?
Look, I came on the program when there wasn't any of these interviews or anything about
no proof.
no proof, no client feedback, nothing.
Yeah.
And I took the risk for you.
And was it a good decision?
Yeah, it was a great decision.
Brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. So look, to close this out, everything we set out to achieve inside the blueprint has been earned here. So like to summarize that, like the pillars that I preach all the time, profit, control, like you've achieved them, and all we're doing now is just doubling down on that and just really going and just getting more and more out of the business and life. So again, you've moved away from the small jobs you didn't enjoy into the higher quality projects. You've built structure around the business. You've reclaimed your life, your time. You've improved your profitability, and most important, you're in full control of the business because you're sitting here in a studio now talking to me, and the business is operating, the phone's not ringing, and you know, so look, fair play to you. But look, again, you came in with 6 months as a 6 month client, you made the commitment, you've signed up for another year. That decision probably tells you more than anything else, more than numbers ever could or what I'm telling you talking to a camera. But it isn't hype, it's not quick wins, it's not motivation. It's about building the foundations properly, earning the outcome, and like Dan, fair play to you. Like I say, you done the work. You came to me, you knew exactly what you wanted. Well, even then, you kind of had an idea of what you wanted. We mapped it all out, but you're the guy that executed it. And look, credit to you. You're one of the best achieving clients we'll have on board, and that comes down to you. So look, appreciate you coming in and sharing the journey. And get back to work.
Thank you.